of the important things when making a video is making sure that you have good audio. I don't. I'm driving. I don't really have time to record as much when I'm not driving. So I'm multitasking, and if some of the things I say make sense to you and it's worth struggling through the noise, I'll try to do post-edit, make it as good as possible. But yeah, I recognize it's not perfect audio quality. Today I'm going to talk about something that came up from some social media stuff that I saw, some conservatives. I made a post basically saying, as of February 21st or whatever, so roughly a month in office for the Donald, that the Department of Government Efficiency had reduced or identified or whatever, like 55-ish million or billion in stuff that was being wasted or shouldn't be happening. It was government inefficiency, according to Elon. So I did a little bit of math, and I just did screenshots. I looked at ChatGPT, and I said, well, how much did he do? Okay, 0.82%. And then I said, well, that's just tiny. And I put that on social media basically to say, be a critical thinker. When you hear a huge number like $55 billion was discovered, it was waste. Okay, you can be impressed for a moment or two, but then look at the scale of things. And that's tiny. That's tiny. Well, less than 1%, obviously. So I made this post, and then several of my friends who are conservatives wrote back in defense of Trump and Elon. And evidently Fox the last few days has been saying this stuff, and I'm sure it's just being repeated by my friends. I'm sure that these ideas are coming from somewhere outside of just sitting at home and contemplating or looking at what other people have liked or disliked about social media stuff. So their argument is, well, there hasn't been enough time yet. So you're expecting, in 1 month, you're expecting Donald and Elon to solve all of the problems that were caused mainly by Democrats over the last hundreds of years or 50 years or whatever. And no, I don't expect that. That would be unrealistic to expect. That's not what I'm saying. And there was a deeper, I guess you'd call it more nuanced point that I was making. And I don't think I always explain things well to all segments of the population. Sometimes I think I get used to people who are into philosophy and critical thinking, and then I make posts expecting that type of person to be my audience. And it's not. That's a very small percentage of the population are interested in moral philosophy and economics and critical thinking and many of the geeky, nerdy things that I'm interested in. And so I guess I'll try to explain my point here in the whole making the point. Well, first of all, you need to be a critical thinker and look at actual numbers and not just get impressed when somebody says a number that's big. You got to look at it in context. So that was one point. Here's what I think's really going on with Donald and Elon. I think that Elon is doing the best he can in life. And I think Donald probably is too. And I think that they probably have lower moral, ethical standards than the average person. Obviously, if Elon is accepting green credits and crap, like he's smart enough to know that he doesn't need to worry about global warming or whatever. Like he should be smart enough to know that. But he's talking the talk. He's going along with it. I don't blame him. Most major corporations have their whole, we're scared the world's going to end and we've got to, please don't flush your turds down the toilet while you're in our hotel. Let them sit for a few days because we got to conserve water cards or whatever. I'm exaggerating. I don't need to exaggerate. So I shouldn't have said that. I should be talking about those little cards in the hotels that say, use your dirty towels day after day, just like you do at home. And, one of those little perks when you go to a hotel and you get fresh towels each day and you get your bed made each day with fresh sheets. Yeah, don't enjoy those little perks, which is kind of what it makes it worth staying at a hotel. Don't do that stuff. So the hotels go for it. They fall into the whole greenie sustainability thing. They can't be really believing it, but they go for it because they know it's the thing to do. All right, so I don't blame Elon so much for that, but it does show lower moral character than if he just ignored it and didn't address it. Like, that would be better than going along with it. And he doesn't. However, I still think Elon's really good at coming up with ideas and making them happen. And definitely he uses government favors to make things happen. He definitely uses all the legal tax breaks he can find, which I do too. So yeah, I'm not really coming down on Elon that much. Now here's what I think Trump is doing. Trump is saying, okay, I'm a populist. All of the regular conservatives, they're going to like me anyway. So the people who watch Fox News, doesn't matter who ends up being the Republican president, they're going to be okay with it. Like, you don't have to do anything for those people. You've got them. But it's the borderline people. Well, who are some of the borderline people? And so he started looking at those groups, and one of the groups who he identified were people who are, I don't know, kind of libertarian-leaning. Not Libertarian Party, even though he did court them. I think he found out that they're not true libertarians, as much as the much larger group of people who aren't part of the party, but who believe in libertarian philosophy, at least to some point. So he wants to appeal to us, and I'm one of those people. And so he says, well, what can I do? Who's one of the heroes of these people? Well, Elon is. He's this capitalist who has made it big, and we're ignoring that he's had some favors done. But he's a capitalist who's made it big. Let's get this guy on the team. Oh, why don't I also promise to talk to Ron Paul? Boom, you get another couple million people who now think you're great. Hey, I'll talk to Javier Milei. Now there are another couple 100,000 people who think you're great. And so you just pick a field of these people, and then you get some of them who are a little bit more controllable. They've got something you can leverage. Like, you could leverage Elon and say, hey, do you want me to get rid of all your tax breaks? Do you want me to stop your sustainability flow of money or whatever's going on? I don't even know the details of it. So he's got leverage with Elon. Elon wants to run businesses and doesn't want to be tied up in regulatory crap. And a president has the power to do some regulatory crap, even though it maybe is supposed to be other branches of the government's organization. Presidents have some power. So I think Trump is basically using Elon as a puppet, a pawn, an actor. And maybe Elon knows this and doesn't care. Maybe Elon actually thinks, hey, if I can go in and do a little bit of good, isn't it better to do a little bit of good than none? And so let's address that argument. That argument is, and this is basically what my friend said to me, and they didn't say it in these words, but essentially, hey, you see some guy who goes out and sees that the 1,000 acres of forest have burned down, and the guy goes out and he plants 3 trees, and by the time he's done tamping the dirt down around him, you're complaining that the whole forest hasn't regrown. No, the Democrats have destroyed the forest over the last many, 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 many years, and you can't start talking badly about the guy who's trying to do at least a little bit of good. Hey, fair enough. Let's examine that. How many trees does it take to repopulate 1,000 acres? And I don't know anything about tree stuff, arborist or botany or whatever. Well, just play along. This is an analogy, and if analogies were exact, they wouldn't be analogies. They're just something to help us think about it alongside the real deal. So let's say that it takes, 100 trees for every acre. And then once those grow, then they'll drop enough seedlings that then it'll populate faster. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But I think that's not horribly far. It's not more than 10,000% off. So let's just go with that. So the guy goes out and he plants 3 trees on the whole big, huge thing. And he does that in a month. And I guess because of how offices could go and Senate and Congress and such, things could change in 24 months. So basically, Donald Trump has 24 months to have everybody all hands on deck who has power to get stuff done. Okay, so 1/24th of the time has been spent and 3 trees have been planted. It's cute. It makes for good photo opportunities. It gets people excited. It gets people like me thinking, hey, they found another $4 million worth of crap here. Oh, yeah, way to go. Look at them rooting that crap out. It distracts us, though, from the real point. And the real point is not all the little fraud or all the little waste or sloppiness or just lousy administration, just being lousy, I guess, excellent bureaucrats, because that's what they do. It's not there are things that they do wrong. Those aren't the issue. Those I'm pretty happy with. That's a weakness that government has. So I'm like, yeah, nice. It's the idea that it's okay to make people poor um, through primarily inflation, and that's taking way more from people than taxes are. But kind of combine those two. And Donald Trump has not said last year the U.S. government, my office, under a bad guy, spent $8 trillion or whatever. The year before that, he spent $7 trillion. Can you believe that? The year before that, he spent $6. The year before that, $5. And the year before that, I was in, and I only spent $4. And the year before that, I only spent $3. Well, wait a minute. They're both going on the same trend. Trump in his last presidency was one of the top 3 presidents who spent the most. It's not like he's different than other politicians. It's not like he's this different animal that's coming in to drain the swamp. I know you want to believe that, and I know he knows that many of you will believe that, which is why he said it. But that's not, in my opinion, I don't think he's this good guy, basically Ron Paul except with really cool hair. No, I don't think that's the case. Yeah, it ain't the case. So kind of my point is, when you look at the little things, you're distracting from the things that really matter. And that's my contention. That's the thing that frustrates me most, I think, is if you look at a horrible thing that's happening, and rather than addressing the horrible thing, you look at an offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot, and then microscopically examine that, and you find one little thing wrong there, and then you say, this is the issue. No, that isn't the issue. No. Filing the nails, the fingernails, for some dude who beats his wife every night, that's not addressing the problem. Even though she might have gotten a scratch at some point from one of his fingernails, filing his nails is not the problem. The idea that the guy has that it's acceptable to initiate violence against another person, that's the problem. The woman not being able, for whatever psychological reason or financial reason, to leave that situation, that's a problem. The guy not caring whether she survives or not, that's a problem. But his fingernails being filed, no matter how well you go in and you file every single one of his fingernails, let's say you add on the toenails, you file all those down, you take his boots, and rather than having the sharp edges on the soles, you round them down, you file them down so that when he kicks her in the head, it's more of a soft thing than a sharp thing. No matter how many of those little things you do, the big problems still exist, and they're not being addressed. And if you say to him, hey, you're a bad guy, and his response is, yeah, but you know what? I want to address this. I've made my mistakes, but look at this. I did my fingernail. Like, I had this filed. You know, it's not going to, I scratched her once, and I'll take full responsibility. The important thing, though, is I've had my fingernail filed, and I don't think there's as much of a chance of scratching her as much in the future when I'm beating her. That's not an acceptable answer. And it's not addressing the deep down real point. And even if it was, even if the point was, let's say that you're a conservative and you think, yes, there should be government. Government needs to exist. People are so stupid, I agree, that they would have trouble living without a government. Absolutely. Maybe not as much trouble as they have living with a government, but there'd still be trouble. And then you say, well, there has to be a government that does a few basic things, but they're not going to do everything. And so any little thing we can pick away at, yeah, okay, maybe that's a good point. If it's material, like a material in the context I'm using it, for those of you who are not familiar with that terminology, material means worth enough to be worth mentioning. So, you know, the fingernail example, that wasn't a material difference. Now, having the guy, if somebody walked in there, stuck in, and cut his arms and legs off, and yeah, that would be a material difference in his ability to personally, physically assault his wife. Yeah, there you go. Now that's material. But a fingernail is not. So when we go into something, and I say we, I mean human beings who are trying to fix a problem, and we fix little tiny parts of it, but they're not substantial, it doesn't matter. It's not material. The only way it would matter is if it was making a difference in a non-physical realm. So in other words, if going in and cutting a $4.3 million, the last president was filling up the gas tank of his jet at the wrong jet gas station FBO, and they were overspending, and it was because it was his buddy's FBO, and now we've cut that 4.3 million. That's not doing anything beyond the physical 4.3 million. Now, if it was making a way bigger point, if the point was presidents don't really need jets to fly around, nothing they do is that immediate. It's not important immediately. They should drive cars or take trains or horses and buggies. If that's the point you're trying to make, and you go after a 4.3 million little pittance thingy to make that point, and you successfully make that point, okay, now you have an argument. But if you're not even making the point, I don't care about the 4.3 million. That's too tiny. That's too tiny. And it's a distraction. And that just frustrates the heck out of me. Am I off base on any of this? Yeah, of course I want USAID, whatever, disbanded, shut down. Of course I do. Of course I want the FBI and IRS and every single government agency shut down. Of course I do. Oh, shouldn't I be thrilled when one of them is shut down? Nah, because you're trying to get me to be thrilled. You're throwing this is a throwaway. I'm going to throw this one away. You don't think that same intelligence work is going to be done? You don't think they're going to destabilize and build up this dictator or this country or that, and still do the same stuff they're complaining about USAID doing? No, they're still going to do that. And by the way, if you're a central planner, it's a good idea to do that. If you're like that dude Joe Rogan had on recently, the CIA guy that says he's former CIA, whatever, Barker, whatever, if you agree with him, and if you think like him, if you have his moral standards, well, if you have his lack of moral standards, then basically his thinking is, and he's very good, if you're a sociopath, his idea is, well, here's how you win. And you're like, yeah, dude, but you're going into the boxing ring and you're throwing knives at the guy. And he's, hey, everybody else is doing it. We're going to do it too. And you're like, well, wait a minute, but this is a boxing match and it's by the, whatever, rural berry or whatever rules. It's not really a boxing match unless you do it this way according to the rules. Oh, we're just going to win this thing. Screw it. Stabbing him. Well, no, there's a different sport. It's called MMA. That lets you do a little bit more. Like, I am very frustrated at people's stupidity. And it's one thing if you're open and honest and you're dumb. Most people are below average IQ. And I would say probably 80% of people. Of course, I know that that's not true. But boy, it sure feels like it. However, I do believe that at least half of the people in the world are in the lowest 50 percentile of IQ. Like, I believe that's true. And many of those people are on social media, and they get me frustrated because I'll agree with them on some things, but they can only take it so far, and then their brains aren't able to take it to the next level. And maybe their brains would be able if they trained them. Maybe if everybody took the next 6 months and just watched a bunch of Peter Boghossian, watch a bunch of his videos, a bunch of street epistemology videos, learn a bunch of logical fallacies. Maybe if everybody did that for 6 months, those who have IQs of 93, maybe that would bring them up so that they could have intellectual conversations with people who have, 100 IQs or 110 or 120 or whatever. Maybe that would make them capable. I don't know. But it sure is frustrating as things stand.
We hope this helped. If you feel the vibe, we invite you to join our tribe. Please subscribe.